Good morning. My name is Charlie Spano. I'm the chairman of the 9/11 Memorial Committee for Lackawanna County. I welcome you all to the park on this somber, solemn day. Many of you in the audience were probably not even born when this event occurred. 17 years ago today, it was a Tuesday. It was Election Day in New York. The sky was so unbelievably clear, I know that's hard to believe, people actually stopped as they walked to work to marvel at the blue crystalline beauty of the sky. Clear, cloudless, a perfect, beautiful day. And then it was destroyed. It was challenged. We were challenged in the United States. Over 3,000 people, innocent people, who only wanted to put in their day of work, were murdered by evil in the world. That is a day we must never forget. That's why we're here. From that day forward, these 7,000 individuals in whose shadow we stand today believed in something and sacrificed everything. We will not let that memory fade. I'd like to call upon Tom Rummerfeld, the chaplain for the Northeast Detachment of the Marine Corps League, to give us invocation. So if you'll please rise and remain standing for the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance. Tom?
This day has been consecrated to our departed patriots and fellow citizens. The impulse that inspired us to set this day aside for remembrance of our departed came and sprang forth from the grieving hearts of family and friends. We cannot forget. The generations that follow us will not forget. Our expressions of love and sorrow will become expressions of gratitude and acknowledgement for the debt that they paid. They lived, felt dawn, saw the sunset's glow. They loved and were loved. Now they are at peace. Dear Lord, you have sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is sifting throughout the hearts of men before the judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet. Our God is marching in.
Judge Mundley will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, I'm just going to make one brief comment. I spoke to Commissioner O'Malley, and I want to say one thing about everybody coming out here. Congressman Cartwright, thank you. Sid Michaels-Gabolis, thank you. All of you are wonderful people. You came here today on this rainy day. Rain or shine, I just want everybody to know we'll be here every single year. And I want to thank Charlie Spano and Commissioner O'Malley for the good work you do. We'll never forget this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. I'd now want to introduce Anne Marie Dupre, former soprano with the New York Grand Opera, who sings opera in local opera, to deliver the national anthem.
Oh, Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the hope of the brave?
I want to begin by thanking a lot of people to make for this whole week. I want to start with Kendra Lynn, a member of the 9/11 Memorial Committee, who was the chair and the spearhead and the motivator behind bringing this national memorial to Pennsylvania. This is its one and only time in 2018. We talked briefly the other day about bringing it back in a couple of years, so we're going to definitely pursue that. Kendra? As always, we very much thanks to the County Parks and Recreation Department. I know Pat O'Malley has nothing to do with that. And it's Bill Davis and Bob Semenza, Mark Dewar, and all the other folks that help us out here every year when we do this, and we thank you for that. I want to thank Fred Lieber, who brought the bucket truck up to hang the flag. The fire departments of Taylor, Old Forge, Music, and Scranton, the fire and police departments, Elizabeth DeFrancesco, and the students of the class of 2019 of West Scranton High School who are here today. They made the wreath that'll be laid today. As always, the Northeast Detachment of the Marine Corps League, Johnny Superstar, who I have driven crazy the last couple of days with requests for things. And I want to recognize State Representative Sid Michael Kavulich, Frank Mazza from Senator Pat Toomey's office, and Mayor Bill Courtwright. I think he's in the back there. And we'll hear a little bit later from Congressman Cartwright. Right now, and as the main focus of this particular event every year, are the non-military uniformed personnel, the EMTs, the firemen, the policemen. Within minutes after the first plane struck the first tower in New York City to begin a day of horror, firemen scrambled and went into the burning, fading, dying buildings. People were trying to get out. The firemen went in. The transit police went in. The regular police patrol went in. EMTs went in. Many of them died horribly. About 700 of those uniformed personnel. It is to them we dedicate this day, in addition to all the military personnel who were called up and deployed after September 11th, 2001. People ask me, why do we do this? We do this so the memory of all these people will not fade. I've only known Kendra Lynn a couple of years with her activity on this committee. I never met her brother, but I feel as though I know him through her. If he was half as great as she was, he was a pretty good guy. And all of his compatriots, all those men and women on those posters, they believed in something and they sacrificed everything. I heard an interesting thing on the radio the other day, which kind of underlies why we want to do this every year. 182 years ago, in March of 1836, a battle was fought on a dry, dusty plain in Texas. 182 Americans were massacred. They were defenders of the Alamo. Why is that relevant today? Because the State Board of Education in Texas would like to have them no longer called heroes. 182 years after they died, they're not heroes in the eyes of the State Board of Education of Texas. If that recommendation goes through, it'll be another sad day in this country. Let's not allow the memory of these people, our local citizens, and all those EMTs and police and fire who died that day ever be forgotten. Not for 182 years, 182 minutes, 182 seconds. Let's remember them always. And in that line, I'd like to call up now someone who was there. Frank McBride is a local resident and a retired EMT who was scrambled by FEMA, along with several other compatriots, to go to the World Trade Center, to go to Ground Zero, to assist with recovery operations. Frank, if you'd come up and share your experiences.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the committee for inviting me today. On 9/11, me along with several other local residents here in Scranton work with a local 9/11 ambulance with dispatch, as Charlie said, by FEMA down to 9/11. We went down there within 12 hours. We were attached to a local disaster response team. Like I said, we spent exactly 72 hours at Ground Zero. Initially, we were supposed to be a support unit to respond to certain calls in the area because the local New York City EMS was busy. What ended up happening was we ended up just being a relief truck right there in case they brought out anybody, which never happened. It was just always quiet, even though there were just hundreds of responders working. That's all I remember, is that it was just quiet. We prayed, we watched, we searched, and nothing ever happened. 17 years later, the same 7, one of them's dead from cancer. 2 of us have cancer and other health issues. We have respiratory problems, and we all suffer from PTSD. These military gentlemen, men and women who have died, and that haven't died and that are coming home, they're still suffering too. And thank Veterans Promise for all they're doing. My friend Stuart Ferber, who was with me that day, only died a couple of years ago. He just went to the hospital with back pain. He was riddled with cancer. Many of us are still suffering in regards to financial problems, family problems, just problems. We're doing the best we can, but there's not many things for us available in Pennsylvania. In New York, there's hundreds of areas we can go for help. What happened in Shanksville, only a few years ago, they were just approved for health benefits from the World Trade Center. These guys were picking body parts out of trees. I myself have a son right now who's deployed with the 3-7 United States Marine Corps in Syria right now. I haven't heard from him in 7 days. What's divine about this is that boy came to me after I came home and said, "Daddy, I'm going to do something about this." He graduated 9/11/2015 for boot camp. That's pretty coincidental. I want to close in sharing, we have a serious PTSD problem in this area. If you guys seen the news, we just lost 2 EMTs who killed themselves. We have no one to talk to except ourselves unless we use our own health insurance. Getting the insurance we have from the World Trade Center, a lot of the hospitals don't accept that insurance here. We have to travel very far. Something has to be done. I want to take this moment to urge everybody to reach out to your representatives. We need to do something. We need these programs to help us that are suffering out there. No responder left behind. No responder left behind. God bless you all.
Thank you, Frank. And we will communicate that message. I'd like now to call up Patrick O'Malley, the Vice Chair of the 9/11 Committee, and County Commissioner.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's always an honor to be here on 9/11. I remember this day. So, my son was born August 17, 2001, and I had an option where I was able to hold a lot of my vacation time, so I was off like 3 or 4 weeks. So I was sitting on the couch around 7:45 in the morning that day, and my mother called me up around 8 o'clock. She said, "Pat, on Good Morning America this morning, they're talking about how a plane flew into the World Trade Centers." I said, maybe it was a plane from LaGuardia or Kennedy or something. So I flip on the channel, sitting there holding my son. About 5-10 minutes into it, and they're just talking, just normal, like plane flew in it, firefighters are on the way, police are there. No one's thinking terrorism or anything such as that. All of a sudden, the other plane came in from the left. I'll never forget, went straight into the building, just like a needle going into like straight in. And I was like, wow, we're at war. We're at war right now. And my son was getting up for school this morning, and I said, you would remember this, but you did see this. You were sitting on the couch with me the day that this happened. And I made sure when all of our students came in from West Granton, our evaders here, right? I asked how many were 17 years old. Can everybody raise their hands that were 17 years old that day? So they were all born that day, or born around that time. And our country changed immediately. It really did. And our travel, just life in general. Like I tell my son to always be perceptive. Look around you, see who's with you, who's there. Be cognizant of the environment you're in. And our country also came together after that. I was amazed because they were talking about people. There was a divorce ratio in New York City, and after that happened, it dropped. Like 75% of the people who were going to get divorced got back together because they thought this was such a horrible, tragic event that the 3,000 people died. But the towers themselves is the thing I always think about in Pentagon, and I think about Flight 77. But think about that, what Charlie said. Everybody was running for their lives to get out of those buildings as fast as they could. And the firemen and the police and EMTs were running into it. In the back of their mind, they had to have been saying to themselves, this might be the last time that I am ever outside. I'm going to this building. I might be going to my death. But they were going in there to save lives, which they did. And that's why, like whenever I see any of our first responders, our police, EMTs, our firemen, I shake their hands. I thank them for what they do every day, because it's not an easy job. And I'd like to thank all of you and applaud all of you for being here today. Thank you for what you do making it safe. So fast forward so many years, we have a small memorial, then we got the larger memorial, and then all of a sudden we're started to dedicate names of all of our servicemen that have passed away from Lackawanna County on the back of the beautiful memorial. We had lots of space. So we couldn't find this one soldier's family. Staff Sergeant Stephen Tudor. Couldn't find him. Tried for about a year. Good friend of mine, Dorothy Zach, was watching Newswatch 16, and she saw this big balloon release up in Tunkhannock. who's standing there in the middle of the balloon release but Kendra Lynn? And this is for her brother, Stephen Tudor. So we immediately called 16, got the connections, got a hold of her, and we brought her in. And that year, we talked about her brother. We had a little unveiling and stuff. And she immediately, became a member. And there was just always a spark to her. And I brought this up the other day when we were doing the memorial service on Saturday, but I had to bring it up today. There's always a spark to her. Always diligent, always helping in the background. You're not up front. This past November, she came to us and she said to us, we didn't know this. We didn't know there was a Remembering the Fallen memorial. We did not know about this. She came to us and she had a couple flyers. She said, I want to bring this to Lackawanna County. I don't want us to ever forget these soldiers. I want to make this happen. So we called up Bill Davis, made sure that all this was reserved, and Kendra went out single-handedly and got all the donations for this to happen. And you know what? That's the love of a sister for her brother. That's what this is about, the love of a sister for her brother. And all of those that their families have broken hearts just like she does. So I'd like to applaud Kendra for a great job. You're the best. The very best. But think of these numbers we're talking about. Almost 7,000 servicemen and women here. 3,000 people died on 9/11. We're talking about 10,000 people. Every single one of them had loved ones, children, favorite dog, cat, loved life, wanted to go to work, wanted to go home from their shift of being a policeman, fireman, EMT, come back from Iraq, whatever they were, whatever the soldiers were doing, whatever department, whatever part of service they were in, they wanted to come home and have a life. They sacrificed all of that for all of us to be here today. So I'd like to thank all of our Gold Star families that are here today. And I would rather them all be here, but they're not. But I'd like to thank all of you for your loved ones and what they did for our country. And that goes for all of our first responders. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Matt Cartwright, our Congressman.
Thank you, Chairman Spano, Commissioner O'Malley, Judge Munley, Representative Kavulich, and all of those assembled today. It's gratifying to see all the young people here, and really, Charlie, to realize that you didn't go through that, and you don't remember what it was like. All of us that were working at our jobs or trying to work at our jobs, I mean, for weeks, you couldn't focus. It was 24/7 TV coverage of the first responders' attempts to recover bodies and look for survivors, and there was just no way. There was no work being done. I was actually the Rotary District Governor for all of northeastern Pennsylvania on 9/11. I was driving to Jim Thorpe to give the district governor's address to the Rotarians down there. And Judge, that wasn't much of a speech I gave that day, I'll tell you that. And we were so, seeing the first responders from our area travel to New York and do what they could. The rest of us, we were just apoplectic, not knowing what to do, what to think, what the future held. I know that I was a courtroom lawyer at the time, and what we did, and Mr. McBride, thank you for being here, and thank you for your words. What we did, feeling so helpless and unable to do what you did and go and lay hands on and help directly. You remember they started the Victims' Compensation Fund, and there were thousands and thousands of people, family members of those who perished in the tragedy, first responders who came down with those respiratory illnesses, and some not diagnosed, many not diagnosed. and all of them needed representation. And my brother-in-law Dan Munley and I, we started our firm. We took 7 of the cases, and there were 1,200 courtroom lawyers around the country who showed up and did all those cases for free. That was all we could think of to do, but everybody was like that. Everybody in this country, our heads were spinning for weeks and weeks as we tried to grapple with this national tragedy. So thank you for coming today, and thank you for starting to learn about what it was like 17 years ago today. On September 11, 2001, our nation was irrevocably changed. We lost the lives of loved ones, and our sense of national security was threatened. Though we were left reeling in the wake of tragedy, Americans banded together to rebuild and look forward to the future. Despite our suffering, we endured, we persevered. As we commemorate this solemn occasion, it's important to remember our national resilience and the bravery shown by so many on that day and the days that followed. That is the true spirit of what it means to be an American. We are resilient, we are resourceful, we are resolute. While our nation seems more divided than ever, it is important to remember the camaraderie and the kinship we felt toward one another, toward our fellow Americans in the wake of 9/11. It is my hope that we continue to grow together and make the United States a welcoming and safe place to live. Thank you all so much for being here.
I'd like to ask Scranton Police Chief Carl Graziano to come forward and give us a few remarks. After the chief speaks, we will have God Bless America, sung by Anne Marie Dupre, and then the Marine Corps League will fire a salute, just to be aware of that.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the 9/11 committee for putting together this service, remembering our fallen. You know, speaking for law enforcement, it's much harder to be a police officer today than it's ever been in the history of policing. And police officers and first responders and military aren't looking for, praise. They're not looking for rewards. They're not looking for even thanks. They're just looking for a validation of the work that they're doing, that the good fight that they're fighting is the good fight, and that it's supported. And that's even more important for fallen officers, fallen first responders, or fallen military, that their families are supportive of the fight that they fought, and that they know that the people are supportive of the fight that they fought, and that they died for the good cause of our country. And this service is one way of doing that. It's a remembrance of that they fought the good fight for the people of this country and this flag. There's some in our country today that would use the flag as for their own personal outcomes, and unfortunately, this flag has draped the caskets of many of our fallen, and it stands for all of you. It stands for freedom, and it stands for doing the right thing, and that should be respected every day. And this service is one way of doing that. And for as long as I'm here, I'll be at this service, and I thank the commission for putting this together, and I thank everyone for coming out, because really this service and this flag stands for everybody here, because this is your country, this is your area, and you should be supportive of that. And thanks. Thank you.
Anne Marie Dupre will do God Bless America, and then the Marine Corps League will fire a salute.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam.
Too early. Too early.
Thank you, Marines. Chief Patrick DeSarno, Scranton Fire Department, will now introduce the bell ceremony for fallen firefighters. You may sit down.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? I'm really glad to be here today. Normally, I just come up, do the bell ceremony, read the bell ceremony, and say hello to my invaders. Good to see you all today. It makes me proud to be up here and see everybody here. But I'm going to take a little liberty today in light of this amazingly moving tribute over here. My dad was career Army, 21 years, retired Sergeant First Class. Served in Korea and Vietnam. Okay, as you can tell, that's where I get my great looks. But my family and I were blessed to have him return from both conflicts home safely, and so many others are not and were not so fortunate. So with that said, I'm only speaking for myself when I say that I will never, no matter the issue, disrespect this flag, which is my flag. That would be a great dishonor to him, to all these patriots over here, to those who have died before them, and to those who we honor today, and to all those, unfortunately, who will probably pass in the future. So that's all I have to say on that matter. Thank you. The ringing of the bell. The men and women of today's fire service are confronted with a more dangerous work environment than ever before. We are forced to continually change our strategies and tactics to accomplish our tasks. Our methods may change, but our goals remain the same as they were in the past: to save lives and to protect property, sometimes at a terrible cost. This is what we do. This is our chosen profession. This is the tradition of the firefighter. The fire service of today is ever changing, but is steeped in traditions 200 years old. One such tradition is the sound of a bell. In the past, as firefighters began their tour of duty, it was the bell that signaled the beginning of that day's shift. Throughout the day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell, which summoned these brave souls to fight fires and to place their lives in jeopardy for the good of their fellow citizens. And when the fire was out, the alarm had come to an end, it was the bell that signaled to all the completion of that call. When a firefighter had died in the line of duty, paying the supreme sacrifice, it was that mournful toll of the bell that solemnly announced a comrade's passing. We utilize these traditions as symbols which reflect honor and respect on those who have given so much and who have served so well. To symbolize the devotion that these brave souls had for their duty, a special signal of 3 rings, 3 times each, represents the end of our comrades' duties and that they will be returning to quarters. And so, to those who have selflessly given their lives for the good of their fellow man, their tasks completed, their duties well done, to our comrades, with their last alarm, they are going home. Thank you. God bless you all.
We're going to hear from Ashley Yondo DeFleece, our 9/11 musical director.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Maria, gratia plena, Maria, gratia plena, Ave, Ave Dominus, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris, ventris tui, Iesu. Ave Maria.
Thank you, Ashley. I'd now like to introduce Kendra Lynn, chairing the Remembering Our Fallen Memorial, who will read the names of our citizens on the back of this and introduce someone very, very special today.
Before I read the names, I just want to go back to something Frank McBride said when you said you have no one to talk to. You had me to talk to. And I know a lot of other people would listen as well. I'm a good listener, so my husband wouldn't say that, but I am. I didn't know what to expect when the monument came. I knew it would be emotional, but I didn't anticipate all the stories that I would hear. A lot of combat buddies came. Some of them couldn't even walk through the memorial because they were just overcome with emotion. I had a gentleman reach out to me last night on Facebook, and he came down from Frackville, and he said he was good. He was trying to keep it together as he was going in and out of the towers. He said until he saw an 8 or 9-year-old little boy that asked his mommy, "Do you think we'll see Daddy's picture up here?" That was really hard. Or the Vietnam vets that came with no legs and no arms. I would thank them for their service, and they said, "You don't have to thank me, I came home." I'm lucky. These men and women didn't. I am so sad to see this monument go. I feel connected to it. I almost didn't want to be here when we took it down because I feel a part of me is leaving with it. I went through these pictures and I saw their personal life, their babies, children that came that don't even remember their dad because they were too young when they died. So it means a lot that everyone came out in the rain, and special thanks to Dave Evans. He doesn't even have a son or daughter on this monument. He has a son that's currently serving, and God love him, he literally has been here at 7 in the morning and didn't go home till 8 at night in the rain, in the cold, and let me tell you, it was cold and wet. Thankfully, we had wonderful people that brought us food and coffee last night. Dave said to me last night, I left early yesterday around 4:30, and we didn't think anyone was gonna come because it was torrential downpouring. And he texted me and said that a person came that was in my Memorial Day balloon release, and they were looking for the person that they carried through the balloon release and let go. And he told me that it just goes to show that that does have an impact on people. This person didn't even know that person, but came here to look for them, to pay their respects. So just thank you to everyone, Nola and Rick Warner. They don't even have to do this. She's a Gold Star mom, and they give up their time to travel around the entire United States to assemble and disassemble this monument for thousands and thousands of people. And they do it on their own time. They are volunteers, and I am so thankful for them. I got to know them quite well over the last couple days, and we gotta get you a pierogi before you leave because he's never had one. So just thank you to them. You guys are awesome, and I love you guys, and I really am gonna miss you. So now I'll read the names. Lackawanna County native Laura Lee DeFazio Morabito. She died on September 11, 2001. Jerry Moran Jr., September 11, 2001. Now for the servicemen that have died protecting our country since that day. George Pugliese, September 28, 2005. Sergeant Eric Slobodnik, September 28, 2005. Lance Corporal Dennis Veeder, March 9th, 2007. Staff Sergeant Stephen Tudor, April 21st, 2007. Sergeant Jan Arganish, August 27, 2007. Master Sergeant Scott Ball, August 27th, 2007. Lance Corporal Larry Johnson, February 18th, 2010. And Staff Sergeant Patrick Dolphin, July 31st, 2011. Now I'd like to introduce my new friend and family, Nola Fritz.
I want to thank you all for being here today. To you high school students, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I taught school for 38 years. I was your favorite teacher, the biology anatomy teacher. I miss my students dearly. And I remember the day we had just finished flags. I'd come in and the athletic director talked about the planes. And I remember going back into my classroom and thinking these kids' lives have changed forever. And I found that mine soon changed also. My son, First Lieutenant Jacob Fritz, came face to face with the evil in Iraq, Karbala, January 20th of 2007. My son, along with 3 other gentlemen, were abducted by Doc Duke and Case Khazali, taken as POWs, were driven towards the Iranian border, where the plan and the goal was to have them tortured and eventually used as a bargaining tool with the United States. Instead, as the Army finally figured out where these 4 gentlemen were being taken, they pulled them off on the side of the road, and my son, along with the 3 other gentlemen, were executed in POW status. My son was a great kid. He graduated with a large class, a total of 11, from a small town in Verdun, Nebraska. When he left for the military academy, I remember looking at him and saying, Jacob, are you ready for this? You could possibly be an officer that's going to have to send men and women into a battle that they may not return from. And he said, yes, Mom. This is what I want to do. This is what I am going to do. I remember the day of his funeral when I was presented the flag on behalf of a grateful nation. I took that general's hands and I said, God has blessed me. I have 3 sons. And I said, the Army did also, because you let him become the officer that he always wanted to be. The one thing that I find important when I travel with this is we are all part of the United States. You take those first 2 letters, U.S., it's us. It's all of you. It's us together, standing united. And I think it's very important on days like today that we always remember that, regardless of what your job is, regardless of what task or what path you have chosen. These men and women, and they always say young, but if you look at the ages, they all weren't young. I think Dave said the average age was something like 23. That's a volunteer army that you're looking at over there. They volunteered to keep us the land of the free because of the brave. Say their names, never let them be forgotten. As Rick and I travel throughout the United States, we have met many people like Kendra, Gold Star families, fellow comrades. We share a bond. Neither one of us ever wanted to wear this gold star. It's not something you aspire to be, but it's something now that I wear very proudly, and I know Kendra does too. Please never forget, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Nola. Not for 182 seconds will they ever be forgot. I'd like now to call upon the officers of the class of 2019 who made this wreath to participate in this ceremony. We're going to escort the wreath from where it is to the monument. I'd like to ask Frank and Congressman Cartwright, Pat, Sid, Judge Munley, Kendra, Nola to take a position around the wreath. The class officers bringing up the wreath will be Enzo Seco, Peyton Cook, Bailey Loriro, Sadie Pollock, Mara Turi, and Angelina Wheeler. Their teacher, Elizabeth DeFrancesco. Where are you, Elizabeth? Stand up and wave. She sent me an email saying we'd like to participate at a greater level. I said, you got it. Here it is. Thank you, folks. You may bring the wreath forward and place it in front of the monument. We'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you, folks. I'd like to call upon Anne Marie Dupree for Amazing Grace, which will be followed by Marine Corps Chaplain Tom Rummerfeld for benediction. Anne Marie.
the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
We give them back to you, O God, who gave them first as a gift to us. Yet just as you did not lose them in their living here among us, so we do not lose them as they go home to you. Comfort us, O Lord, as we mourn. Deepen our faith and hope to believe that life is eternal and love is forever. And death is only a horizon. And a horizon is simply the present limit of our ability to see and understand. Lift us up, O Lord, that we may see farther. Give light to our eyes, O God, that we may see clearly. Draw us closer to you, so in our hearts we know that one day we will be reunited with our cherished and loved ones, who we pray are home with you in heaven. Amen.
Thank you all for coming. Never forget, never again.